The Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office was founded in 1850, making it one of the oldest law enforcement agencies in the state of California. Currently, the Sheriff's Office has over 2,000 employees and serves the communities of Cupertino, Los Altos Hills, Saratoga, and the unincorporated areas of Santa Clara County. I'm Grace Trafton of The Better Part. Stay tuned and learn more about this agency from our very knowledgeable guest. Our guest today, Captain Ricardo Urena, started his law enforcement career with the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office in 2001. During this time, he has worked in a wide range of assignments and is currently serving as the Chief of Police for the cities of Cupertino, Saratoga, Los Altos Hills, and the unincorporated areas of Santa Clara County. Captain Urena is a graduate of the Peace Officer Standards and Training School of Management from Humboldt State University, as well as the prestigious FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. Welcome, Rich.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, what are some of the advantages for cities to contract with the Sheriff's Office for their law enforcement needs instead of having their own police department?
Yeah, so the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office does provide law enforcement services, public safety services to the cities of Cupertino, as you mentioned, Saratoga, and Los Altos Hills. And with that, we have contracts in place, which allows us to essentially be the police department for each city. There are a lot of benefits to having us provide those public safety actions. And if you look at a traditional police department, what you're looking at is the cost of having, let's say, a building, the cost of having a fleet of vehicles, the cost of staff that would be city staff that would need to support the police department. And so there are a lot of different costs that are eliminated by having the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office provide those services. Make no mistake, we do collect, the cities do pay for the service that we provide, but it's more of a shared type of payment, meaning that, I'll give you an example. Our office is located in Cupertino. The office is paid by the 3 contract cities that we service. And so if each city had to purchase a building for their police department, you can only imagine the expense,
Yes.
especially in this area.
Yes, absolutely.
So the expense, the efficiency of having our office provide those services, I think really allows the cities to vest their monies in different community programs.
So a lot more cost-effective, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
Now, I understand that there are 15 captains in the Sheriff's Office. So how did you get to be designated the chief of all 3 of these cities?
So I can tell you that every single captain in our organization is very, very capable of managing the West Valley Patrol Division. I'm very fortunate. Prior to coming to the West Valley Patrol Division, I did work in our court security division. And in that division, I was managing, I believe it was 13 courthouses in 11 cities.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that was a huge responsibility.
Sounds like it.
We did a lot of great work there. A lot of good work was done, and I was really looking for another challenge. And so when this opportunity came up, I was interviewed by the various cities. And in the end, the sheriff gave me this opportunity to come out here, to be part of this community, and to provide the best law enforcement service that I can while managing our resources.
So you actually interviewed for the job, essentially. Is that right?
I did. I had an opportunity to sit down and talk to each city manager,
Oh, I see.
and just to make sure that that I had the same vision that each city manager has or had at the time, to make sure that again we're aligned in providing those services that our residents really expect from us.
And how long is your tenure?
So typically, the West Valley Patrol Division commander will stay between 3 and 5 years in this assignment. However, it certainly is one of the best assignments I've ever had, and as long as the sheriff allows me to be the commander of the West Valley Patrol Division, I would certainly love to stay.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. Now, when people think about the sheriff's department, they often think about law enforcement, but your office is also involved in many community engagement programs, isn't it?
It is. So I can answer that question by asking a question. And the question is, how do you measure success in a law enforcement organization? And I think that if you asked 100 people, you would get a response similar to, well, you have to trust your law enforcement organization. You have to make sure that the organization is transparent. And so we've built a lot of programs so that our residents can again trust us. They can see what it is that we do. Programs like our Community Academy. That's a program that is 13 weeks. We have that program 3 times a year.
This is the Teen Academy?
Correct. It's a teen and a community academy. So we have the program 3 times a year. It's a 13-week program. And it's 1 day a week, a few hours on a Thursday evening. And what we do is really bring our residents into our organization, and we show them what's behind the curtain, how we operate, what are the things that we're looking for, why we do the things we do. We have a lot of different programs like that. We also have our Explore program for our teens, and that's, again, a program that's geared towards teaching our youth a certain level of responsibility, what it takes to be a professional, because they do wear a uniform. Now, their uniform's white, and they do help us out in the communities when we have community events.
Oh, really? So these are the teens that are in the program. They're wearing uniforms?
Correct. They're wearing a white uniform.
Excellent.
A white uniform. And we also have the various community events that we attend. We have, for example, the Fall Festival in Cupertino, the Diwali Festival that's coming up in Cupertino, and you'll see deputies at just about every festival. In Los Altos Hills, you'll see us at the 4th of July parade every year. We bring the 1959 Chevy out there, and you'll see me driving that
really?
in front of the pack as the residents walk the street. In Saratoga, you'll see us at the various events, as well as their car show, their annual car show. And really, the purpose of us being out there is obviously for public safety reasons, but it's also to communicate with our residents, to break down those barriers, to be able to talk in a non-aggressive or in a more comfortable way, so that they can talk to us about anything and everything that goes on in their neighborhood.
And do they?
Absolutely. It's been so beneficial for us to be out in the community, embedded within the community, because we spend probably more time, our staff spends more time out here with our residents, providing the services that we do, more time than we do in our own family. Because again, the traffic and the time that it takes to get to work, and being at work, and so the more time we spend in our communities, the more we understand what they expect from us, and the better our service.
Excellent.
So we do have a multitude of other types of community programs. One of the things that we started about a year ago is something called Lattes. Lattes, and it's our spin on Coffee with the Cop.
Oh, okay.
So if you can imagine, we have 3 shifts a day, and that's our day shift, our swing shift, and then we have our night shift. And so each shift will spend 30 minutes in the office talking, this is before they go work the streets, talking about what's happened in the city, prior to them coming on. It's what we call a briefing. And so about a year ago, we decided to implement a program where we're having these briefings at a remote location. For example, at a local coffee shop, at a local donut shop, a local bagel shop. And so we have these briefings out in the community because there's really nothing that we want to hide from our residents. And so we have these briefings out in the community. The sergeant gets that first word and he says, "Okay, is everybody here?" And then so our residents get to see and feel what it's like to be part of these briefings. And so after the briefings conclude, then the deputies will hang out and they'll engage our residents again. Talk to them about crime in the area, specifically to that neighborhood. And so again, that's a way for us to break down that barrier, to be able to communicate with our residents at their level, and get an idea as to how we're doing and how we can improve it on what we are doing.
That's excellent idea.
Yeah.
Now, the cities that you serve, Cupertino, Saratoga, and Los Altos Hills, are all affluent communities. So what are some of the most prevalent crimes in these areas?
We're very fortunate that we have such great residents in these cities. We have a very low crime rate in terms of violent crime.
Good.
And I think that speaks directly to how our residents communicate with us. They are quick to call us on anything, which we encourage. You've heard that motto, see something, say something.
Yes.
And that's certainly something that we preach to our residents.
And do they follow through?
Absolutely, they do. So unfortunately, we do have crime, and it's a property crime issue that we have. Specifically, we do have vehicles that are being burgled. We do have some homes that also get burgled. I would say that in the last year or so, crime has reduced, generally speaking, in these three cities, with the exception of our vehicle burglaries. And so we are seeing a significant increase in the region with people breaking into cars.
Oh, really?
And taking things that, that we leave in the back seat, or that we leave on that front passenger seat that looks valuable, even though it may not be.
Right.
And so our detectives have been working with other detectives in the region, because what we know is that crime doesn't have a boundary. And so if a local agency makes certain arrests, those arrests can impact our cities. And so it benefits every law enforcement organization to work together on the same problem, because again, the crooks don't see those borders. They don't know what city is what. So,
absolutely not.
So I would say that the one concern, or the one crime that is on the rise certainly would be our vehicle burglaries, but everything else seems like it's really low.
Now, is there a difference with the unincorporated areas of Santa Clara County with these three cities?
There's not. We do police the unincorporated areas.
But the crime rate is not any different?
The crime rate in our western county unincorporated areas is pretty low. It is very low.
Good.
The only difference really in our unincorporated areas is the traffic portion of what we do. And what I mean by that is, in the unincorporated areas, the California Highway Patrol is in charge of collisions, of traffic investigations. In our cities, we are responsible for traffic collisions, traffic investigations, anything dealing with the traffic. So other than that, the way we police our unincorporated areas is identical to the way we police our cities.
I see. So what are some of the biggest challenges in serving these communities, since the crime rate is low, as you said?
Yeah, so I think the biggest challenge is having our residents understand that they need to call us when they see something that's unusual, something that's suspicious, maybe a person, a vehicle. And I think that's the biggest challenge we have, is just being able to communicate that to our residents. I think it's probably something that A lot of organizations have.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. Last year, we had an incident where a neighbor was watching a vehicle that had been parked in his neighbor's driveway. He was watching this vehicle be loaded with objects by people that didn't live in the house. So in other words, that house was being burglarized. And the neighbor knew that something wasn't right, and the neighbor knew that this house was being broken into because he knew his neighbor. So the neighbor started taking photos, started taking notes of what she was seeing, and then called a relative and said, "Hey, this is what I'm seeing," and then subsequently was told to call us. And so when we asked her, why didn't you call us when you saw this occurring?
Right.
She felt that wasn't sure what she was looking at and didn't want to bother us in case she was wrong. So the point there is, sometimes it's difficult for people to call us because they feel that we may be too busy and we may not have time to investigate the circumstances that they see in front of them. The reality is we're literally waiting by that phone, and we certainly encourage our residents to call anytime they see anything that's unusual.
That's a good point. I hope people are hearing this today. Now, I understand that you recently acquired a canine team member. Can you tell us a little bit about him and what he's used for?
Yes, so Deputy Keck was picked to be the canine handler, and so we did purchase a dog. His name is Dutch. Dutch is a huge part of what we do in the West Valley Patrol Division. What we did is we looked at crime. We looked at circumstances where we had previously, before having a canine, we looked at circumstances where we had called for the assistance of a canine. And what we noticed is that out of 98 times that somebody allowed us to use their canine, a local agency, out of those 98 times, 67% of the time that we used the dog, it was fruitful, meaning we captured someone, we located maybe a missing person. So what we did is we decided, that's a pretty high rate of return should we have a dog ourselves. So all three cities supported us having our own dog, and so we ended up purchasing Dutch, and he has been such a wonderful addition to the operations. The dog is someone who really breaks down barriers, because let's be honest, who doesn't like a dog?
Exactly.
The dog is really used for a variety of things. One is obviously our community relations aspect, but really, if you think about it in terms of trying to find someone, let's say that we're investigating the circumstances at a house and maybe somebody fled out the back door. Dogs have a really good sense of smell. And so what Dutch will do is he'll come in, he'll smell the area in which the person was last seen, and then start tracking that odor. And so certainly that's been fruitful for us. The dog can also be used for apprehension. And what I mean by that specifically is if there's a room where somebody is hunkered in and he or she doesn't want to come out for whatever reason, we certainly want to minimize injury to anyone.
Right.
And sometimes we do deploy the canine to be able to apprehend that person, whether it be just by the bark itself, or perhaps the dog will bite on a leg or something like that, just to get the person to either drop the weapon or whatever the case may be. But again, the animal is a tool. It's something we use, again, to minimize injury to people. And it's a great way to talk to the little ones, the kids in our neighborhood. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, we can always use some good crime prevention tips. Can you give us some real quickly?
Absolutely. So I think I already touched on it a little bit, but we are seeing a significant increase in the region with our vehicle burglaries. And I can't stress this enough. We really need to make sure we don't leave any valuables in our vehicles.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I've done it myself. I've left valuables in my car, and I've been very fortunate not to have my car broken into. I don't do it anymore, but I have done it. And so I think it's a good reminder.
Right.
If you have any valuables in your car, make sure you take them with you. The other thing is, unfortunately, this happens frequently where we're investigating a residential burglary and the homeowner forgets to turn on their alarm, and they're gone, let's say, for an hour. And they come back and maybe somebody broke into their home. And so one of the things we ask is, do you have an alarm? Residents say yes. Then we say, was it turned on? And they say, well, I was just gone for an hour. Or I didn't think, And
Exactly.
so what we recommend our residents do is turn on your alarm, your residential alarm, anytime you're not home. And we even take it a step further. And a lot of the home alarms that we have nowadays, you can actually turn on the alarm, right, without the motion sensor when you're home. And so what that does is it alarms the doors and windows, the perimeter of your house. So if you're inside the house, let's say going to bed, you turn on your alarm, you disable the sensor portion. If somebody opens the rear door, front door, breaks a window, your alarm will sound.
Right.
Again, what better way to alert us and to have that alarm turned on, whether it's at night when you're asleep or whether it's when you're not home.
Are there any other additional things that we as citizens of a community can do?
Absolutely. Get involved. Get involved. Talk to your neighbors. The city of Saratoga has a great neighborhood watch program, so you can certainly log on to their website and get involved. And what that does is it opens those lines of communication between you and your neighbors, the city, to learn what's going on in the community. And by talking to your neighbors, by talking to the city, by talking to us, you get the sense of what we need to do to make our neighborhoods safer. And so one of the things I would say is, if you haven't met your neighbor, go talk to your neighbor. Talk to them about, what you do, how you do it. Maybe when you're on vacation, let them know, hey, I'm going to be gone for a couple days. Can you look over the house? And those things have certainly paid dividends for us, because what we know is our neighbors know our patterns, right? Our neighbors know what time we leave. Our neighbors know what time we get home. And so if they see something in your driveway or around the perimeter of your house, they're more inclined to call us if you've had that relationship with them where you've talked to them and you've opened up your home to them. Yeah.
That's very good advice. Now, I've been hearing about body cameras off and on the news. So does the sheriff's office equip deputies with body-worn cameras?
Yes, so we did receive our first batch of body-worn cameras about a year and a half now, thanks to the Board of Supervisors. I'm actually wearing one right now. This is a body-worn camera here. It's not turned on. It does record for 12 hours.
Oh, okay.
So once it's turned on, we leave it on. It buffers, so it's always recording. So let's say I was to turn this on now, it would go back 30 seconds and pick up the video, not the audio.
Oh, I see.
And so we've had these for, again, about a year and a half now. It's been an extremely beneficial tool for us. Again, as I said earlier, how do you measure the success of an agency? And that's with that trust and transparency. And this is certainly something that gives us that.
So the deputies like using them?
They do. I get this question asked all the time. The question is, how do deputies feel about body-worn cameras? And have they changed the way that they police? And I can tell you that they haven't changed the way that they police. They actually have embraced the body-worn cameras. There is a process in which supervisors and managers like myself, we look at the footage to make sure that our deputies are performing their law enforcement actions in a way that is consistent with our organization. And if there's a complaint, we do have the ability to look at these. They use the body-worn cameras. They're turned on anytime they perform an enforcement action. So let's say that you're driving down the street and you have a tail light that's out, and perhaps you get stopped by a deputy. Well, the deputy's going to have his recorder turned on as he approaches you. So again, every enforcement action that you see out there where we're involved, there are cameras.
Now, when you're actively recruiting for new deputies, what kind of qualifications are you looking for?
So we have minimum requirements We're looking for people that don't have a felony conviction. You do have to have 38 semester units of college work, or I believe it's 56, 57 quarter units. In all the information is online, but those are really the minimal requirements that we're looking for.
And what attracts people to this profession? What attracted you to this profession?
Yeah, so when I was a young lad, I knew that I didn't want to be in an office all day. I knew that I wanted to be out in the community. I wanted to be driving around. I wanted to do something that was outdoors. I think what has happened is we've gotten to the point now where nobody wants to be behind doors. Everybody wants to be out in the community, seeing what's happening out there, being involved. And so people like myself are attracted to that, to not being indoors, to driving around, to not having a supervisor, next to you all day. The deputies are autonomous. They go out. They know what we expect of them. And they get to enforce those laws that people violate and engage our community. So I think that the people that are attracted to this profession are people that are that want to give back to our community, but also don't want to be confined in a room somewhere.
Right. So once accepted, what kind of training do you provide?
Once somebody gets hired, there is a 6.5-month police academy that they attend. And if you can imagine having somebody who's never done this job go through a program where at the end of the program, now they're expected to do the job. It is a little bit stressful for our recruits. Having spent a couple of years there myself training, I can tell you that the people that go through the program and graduate are some of the best prepared law enforcement officers in the region.
That is great to hear.
Yeah.
Now, before we let you go, tell us about your volunteer program very quickly.
Yeah, so we do have a volunteer program. I can tell you that volunteers are utilized for a variety of things within our organization. We have a volunteer on the West Side substation that comes in and just files things for us and does things that help us, again, provide that service that our residents expect. So if anyone would like to volunteer, you can certainly log on to our website and fill out an application.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Rich, for being with us today. You've really given us some really interesting information about your organization.
Thank you for having me, Grace.
Thanks again to Captain Urena for sharing some very interesting information about the Sheriff's Office. And thank you for being with us today. And please be sure to watch us on YouTube and Roku. See you next time. Bye-bye.